You, years ago, led the process of a global discussion that eventually resulted in the agreement to work on sustainable development and the 17 goals. Now, we are already at the midpoint. The Chinese government has also providing the Chinese version of how to do it. For example, Global Development Initiative, a Global Security Initiative, a Global Civilization Initiative, and the list that goes on. How do you see these genuine efforts coming from China?
I think these are very important. We see the framing of many initiatives, and the initiatives in China are framed around the SDGs. So it makes it much easier to communicate in countries that China partners with in the developing world to try to see how you invest in infrastructure, how you're going to invest in business. And it doesn't really matter which initiative, as long as the attainment of the SDGs are there. Now, we've seen some very good examples of China's investment in the data centers.
Yes.
A lot of what we don't have is baseline data. If you don't know where you're coming from, how do you know where you're going? So the SDG spatial data center, which I saw here, is one of 4 around the world, but is the one that is connecting the world. It's not just for China. And what we saw there was its ability to connect across different countries where the UN is, so that we help other countries to frame with spatial data the evidence that they need, the science, the baselines on ecosystems, for instance, or cities. So, you know, many initiatives that are coming out of China, and they are shared. And I think that this is what is important, is the ability to share knowledge, experiences. It encourages other countries to know it can happen, it can be done.
Your takeaway so far of this important trip?
So meeting with the business community in Shanghai, amazing. Young women who are around the table talking about technology and the digital era that we're facing. Of course, many challenges. We have produced a digital compact that looks to protect people in that space, people's rights, children, all of those things were discussed there. Business was there for the SDGs as well. The UN Global Compact convenes a huge community of business leaders, and what they're doing for the principles of getting to net zero, how businesses can green themselves. And I saw that in practice as I moved to Ordos, to the Ordos Desert Initiative,
yes,
which is amazing, because it was about restoration. Restoration of the desert with a seed bank of over 1,040 plant species. Of course, it's taken decades and commitment, but what you saw there was going beyond afforestation and claiming back the desert. You saw that solar power panels were put out there on renewables. You have the largest investment in solar in the world, and we saw that happening in real time.
Yeah.
Seeing that many nomadic children, I come from a nomadic family, so to see children from nomads go into schools that you and I would go to. So, you know, the hope for a child that could come from the desert but be able to reach their potentials.
Yes.
That's what we saw in practice.